I had to make a choice, and I've gone for Luke, and I can only say that I'm unbelievably impressed by the maturity and the graciousness that Ashley Cole has shown.
On the flip side, you've selected a player in Frank Lampard who'll be 36 during the course of the tournament. Could you just tell us why you've gone for Frank?
Well, Frank Lampard, I think, is a very important part of our setup still. I mean, you can't compare players in terms of age. You have to think about them in terms of position and in terms of, what they are going to bring to the team. When you talk about fullbacks like Ashley and Luke, you really are making a choice. When you're in midfield, you have many more positions to choose from, and the qualities you're looking for from players in those positions vary. Frank has been captain of the team on many occasions during my 2 years. He's been the vice-captain to Steven Gerrard. He still plays a very important role in his club side, despite the fact he's not as young as some of the other players. And we think his leadership qualities and the qualities that he will bring to us in Brazil, the help he will give us all, and the ability he has as a player, make him a man who fully deserves his selection.
Doing the sums quickly, it looks as if only 6 players have been to a World Cup before. Do you think that's going to be enough experience?
Well, we hope so. I mean, it's like everything else with experience. How do you get experience? You get experience by being given the opportunity. Those 6 who've been there before, once upon a time, they didn't have any experience either. It's a catch-22 situation. We are aware that in this particular group there are players who haven't played their 50-odd games, but I think also that the balance is still quite good. There are still enough players. I mean, for example, Glenn Johnson has put 50 caps, Cahill, Jagielka, Baines, Hart, Gerrard, Rooney. All of these people have got plenty of caps between them, so it would be wrong, I think, to focus totally on the fact that there are some out there who are young and are less experienced, because everyone's inexperienced until the time he gets the chance to show he can do the job.
Okay, and picking up from that, just how excited then are you at being able to name young stars of the future, such as Raheem Sterling? You've got Jordan Henderson, Ross Barkley in there, lots of good young players. How important was it for you to take those exciting young players?
I think that they've imposed themselves upon me. I don't know that it's a question ever that I set out to take them. I think they've played so well and done so well and been so effective in their club teams and had such success that I think that they have really imposed themselves and imposed their ability, if you like, on my thinking. I'm sure that maybe in October, if I'd have had to pick a squad directly after the final 2 games that qualified us, it might have looked somewhat different, because a lot of water has passed under the bridge between October and now, and you cannot, unfortunately, or I don't know why I use the word unfortunately, that's not necessary. You can't ignore, what people are doing on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis in their club sides, and you don't pick football teams, and this goes not only for national team managers but club managers. You don't do it on anything other than what's happening at any particular time, and your decision as to who is the best man to do the job. And in October, I'm not certain that Raheem Sterling was getting anything like the game time or having anything like the impact he's had in the last 4 months or so. So I think they deserve every credit for making certain that the national team manager can't ignore them.
In the past, Roy, England managers have gone to World Cups and major tournaments with players that have been injured, and there's been the hope that they'll be fit in time. I mean, you've got a few there that have had injury issues, like Jack Wilshere, Phil Jones, Wayne Rooney, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Phil Jagielka. Are you happy that all of them are going to be okay and able to play a full part if needed?
Well, we wouldn't have accepted or selected anybody in this 23 if we seriously thought that we were going to be on tenterhooks with regard to his fitness, and I have to rely in that matter on the doctors and the physios at the various clubs where the players play, and of course our own doctors and physios. The only one I would say that seriously, I suppose, still poses a question is Phil Jones. He He had his shoulder injury a week ago today. Everyone tells me, and my research tells me too, because I had an exactly similar injury twice when I was at Fulham with 2 players. Everything points to the fact that it's a 3-week injury to be back fit and playing. But we can't guarantee that. And as a result, I will be taking John Stones and John Flanagan with us on this trip, and John Stones will be Phil Jones' replacement if by the 2nd of June we are not confident that Phil Jones will be fit, but everything tells me he will be. And with the other players, you know, there's always going to be a situation where a player gets an injury and then comes back from injury, as is the case with Phil Jagielka and Jack Wilshere. But I'm convinced that these players now are fully fit, and in fact, you could argue, have the advantage that they haven't had the wearying effects of an end-of-season Premier League, because they've had some rest in recovering from injury.
Finally from me, he's been to 2 World Cups before, but we haven't perhaps seen the best of Wayne Rooney at them. Do you think this finally could be the World Cup where we see Wayne Rooney prove just what a good player he is?
Well, if it's up to Wayne, and if it's anything to do with desire and ambition and wanting to do it, then there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, we have nothing to fear with Wayne in that respect. At the moment he's in this week where I've actually said to the players that, you know, I'm more than happy for them to go and forget football for a week and, you know, go and get themselves mentally prepared for the many weeks we have ahead. Wayne's decided to take some physios with him where he's going and to continue his programme, because he's so determined that when we meet up on the 19th, he'll be able to join in with us straight away. So attitude, spot on, desire, could not be better. Has he got the ability? Yes, he has. So it's just a question of bringing on the matches and hoping that on that particular day he can find the form that makes Wayne Rooney who he is.
Dan Rowan, BBC News. Hi, Roy.
Hi, Dan.
Someone once said you can't win anything with kids, Roy. How far can this young squad go, do you think?
Yeah, there was full of those things, wasn't there? But I think Southampton might have proved that wrong this year. I don't think, you know, yesterday the 3 boys, I was saying to my wife who was sitting alongside me, that when the 3 boys went to warm up, there was already players on the field who were very young, and the 3 that warmed up, the eldest was 20, and I think Southampton have had a very good season. So I'm not so certain that old adage, which I heard many, many times in my early coaching career, I think it's probably not as true as it once was. But, you know, this is a 23-man squad. You know, we're not talking about 11 here, we're talking about 23. In that 23, there's an awful lot of caps, and it would not surprise me that when we put a team on the field in certain matches and the 11 have been selected, if we add the caps up, I would be pretty much prepared to bet we'll be right up there with all the other teams as well. So we shouldn't get hung up, I don't think, on the fact that there are some youngsters in there. But I must emphasise one thing. They are there because I think they deserve to be there and they are capable of playing. I'm not taking anyone purely for the experience, unless you add maybe John Flanagan and John Stones, who are on the standby list and who may have to leave Phil Jones pulls through.
So you believe this squad could win the World Cup, do you?
Do I believe the squad can win the World Cup? Yes, of course I believe the squad can win the World Cup, because otherwise what's the point of taking the squad to the World Cup if you don't have some belief that they can win it? But they're empty words, and I've got to say that I've never quite understood the importance of people attached to that. You know, I'm certain that Scolari is saying Brazil can win it. I'm certain that the Uruguayan coach Tavares is saying they can win it. I'm certain the Argentinian, the German. Why should we say otherwise? If we're going to win it, we'll have to play very well. If we're going to win it, we'll have to prepare very well. And if we're going to win it, this talented group of players, I think many of you in the room would agree with me, are a talented group of players. They've got to show their talent. And then otherwise, all the words in the world and all the belief and all the optimism count for nothing. But I think we're right to have some degree of optimism. I think we're right to work on the basis that there is a mood of positivity in the country, if I understand it correctly. And we're going to try and feed off that, get our energy from it, and to make certain that we do nothing to let people down. Whether it will take us to a World Cup final and a win, who knows? But we'll be doing our best.
What was it like actually phoning players up who you know well, some of you'll count as friends, and actually giving them the good or the bad news? Did you enjoy that experience, or was it difficult?
No, I certainly didn't enjoy it, and I don't think anyone here would expect me to. All the conversations were private and will remain so as far as I'm concerned, of course. But I would be lying if I didn't say it was a task which I knew was incumbent upon me to take on and my responsibility to take on. But I would also have to admit I wasn't looking forward to it, and I can only be grateful that the players I spoke to showed an understanding for my position.
You've got a few weeks now to prepare before that first match in Manaus against Italy, warm-up games, training camps, Portugal and away in the States. How many of the starting 11 positions are genuinely up for grabs, do you think? Or are you pretty clear already who starts that first game against Italy?
Well, I think you'll look back over the games we played, of course, and there'll be certain people who've been, regulars in the team and who most people would probably expect to be starters. But so much has happened, as I said earlier, in that 7 months or since we qualified. So many players have burst onto the scene that maybe in October were really bit part players as far as we were concerned, really players who were on the fringes and people accepted them as on the fringes. I'm not certain that people will accept them anymore as fringe players. I think, there's many of those guys, if I don't play them from the start, people will be asking why, which is how it should be. So certainly once you move into that front 6 positions, I think we have a lot of options. I think there's a lot of possibilities. A lot of players can play in different positions. And I'd like to think that that's a very exciting group we have for those front 6 positions, whereas the back 4 and the goalkeeper tend to be a lot more stable, and it will probably be easier for people to second guess my selections in that area than it will be for them to second guess my selections in the other. And on that subject, I must congratulate those Sky readers who worried the life out of me 10 days ago when I saw the results of a poll and the team was virtually exactly the one, the squad was virtually exactly the one I was going to select. I was very concerned that there were some very damaging leaks somewhere in my organisation, so I congratulate them on second guessing me very, very well.
Roy, the players that burst onto the scene and have now made it into your provisional squad, at least your 30, are from Liverpool, Southampton and Everton. They all play a very similar brand of football. Is this now brand England?
No, I don't know that. I've not thought about the brands of football teams have played in that respect when selecting the players. I've thought about the qualities of the individual players. What brand do they all play? Well, they all play the brand, I suppose, that we've been trying to play ourselves. They believe in passing the ball, they believe in movement, they believe in trying to be very positive in possession of the ball and getting behind defenders, and they believe in working very hard to get back into shape when they lose the ball. So there's not much that any of those 3 teams are doing that we haven't been trying very hard to do ourselves.
Looking at Ross Barkley, really proven himself in recent months.
Well, he's a very, very exciting player, a very exciting talent. If he can continue at that level, he has a fantastic future in front of him. But I would hope that people are realistic in their expectations from him. We think that he's a very, very exciting member of this team and could be a very useful member of the team as well. But I wouldn't want to put him under the enormous pressure that every time he gets the ball he's got to score a goal like the one he scored against Manchester City, or every time he gets the ball he's got to run 40 yards beating 5 opponents along the way, because that's unrealistic. In my football experience, players don't do that. They do it every now and again.
And looking at Andy Carroll, he'll be disappointed to have missed out, or at least on the reserves, on standby. He has struggled for injury, but how much has Ricky Lambert been helped being in that trio of Southampton players?
No, the fact that he played for Southampton didn't make any effect at all, but Ricky Lambert, of course, has been with us all throughout the qualifying campaign. I'm delighted to see Andy back and back also in good form. That was another decision which wasn't an easy one to make, but in the end I plumped for Ricky Lambert, and it's no criticism whatsoever of Andy Carroll. It was just a choice of 2 players, and I didn't think there was room in the squad for both.
Michael Carrick, on standby, maybe perhaps Man United not having the season they wanted. Has Wayne Rooney perhaps now got the greatest competition he's ever had within England's squad?
Well, we can only hope so, I suppose, because I think it's very wrong to put the hopes of a footballing nation like England on the shoulders of one man. I think, it will be good for Wayne if these other players that I think are very, very good players, the 4 forwards we've selected are very interesting. And don't forget, in that midfield group, there's plenty of players who can score goals. So I'm really rather hoping that the onus of responsibility for leading England and scoring England's goals is at least shared out amongst more players, which might give Wayne Rooney the chance to show many of the other aspects of his game. So I hope you're right, but time will tell, and my words won't actually win us any games.
Hi, Simon Biger from 5 News. How much of a help do you think it is, Roy, to this relatively young squad that expectations are lower this time because of what happened 4 years ago?
Well, it's a very good question, but I've got to say I find it hard really to quantify expectations. I think it would be sad to be sitting here as the England manager announcing a squad which excites me and looking forward to a tournament that excites me if I didn't believe there were expectations and hopes. So I'm a bit wary of that one. I think that as an England player, you have to accept that it's a great honour to play for your country because you're playing for a country where caps are very hard to get. You're playing in a World Cup which you've worked unbelievably hard to get to through a difficult qualifying campaign. And now the opportunity is yours to really go on this stage and, take possession, if you like, of the stage. I'm rather hoping that's what we'll have a chance to do. And I'm also hoping that the feeling I get that people within the country who understand football, and that takes in not just the people sitting here, it takes into the general public as well, because we do know as a general public quite a lot about football, that they will understand that this is a group of players who've got potential, who could do very well, and that we'll get the support. And our job, I think, is to prepare ourselves well and to make certain that we don't, when we look in the mirror, ever see something we don't want to see.
Sure, well, on that, I guess, of course, the players are confident, but 4 years ago there was an immense amount of pressure, the golden generation, all that sort of thing.
But that's
so the youngsters now don't really feel that.
Well, these are epithets that other people give to you. That's the problem.
So
you don't. I'm not so certain that those players you're talking about went out and described themselves as the golden generation. I'm not so certain they were the ones who went out shouting from the rooftops, "We are the golden generation. We are magnificent. We will win everything." On the other hand, they can't stop other people making that judgment and making those claims. If you're saying, do I think that some of these players will be under somewhat less pressure than those players? Yeah, you're probably right, they are. But whatever happens, whether people are giving you this epithet or that epithet, it's up to you really to be the player you are and the player you can be, and to do the job that the team and the coach want you to do. And I believe that in this 23 we got plenty of those.
And with the World Cup, of course, you're in it to win it, but is the European Championship in 2 years' time more realistic, do you think?
Well, we're not thinking about that, to be frank. I mean, 2016 is a long way off. This tournament means everything to us. We want to do very well in it. So our focus is very much on this tournament, and I will refute any claims that some of these players are selected because of 2016. They're selected because of 2014, and I think they can do well. But of course, if at the end of the tournament, when we come away and we're analysing, well, what did we get out of it? If one of the things we got out of it is that some of the players have grown up a bit more, got a bit more experience, will stand them in good stead for the future. Because there's no doubt that if some of these players here who don't have many caps at the moment, if they continue on the path they're on at the moment, they're going to get a lot more caps. And in 2 years' time, 4 years' time, hopefully they'll be even stronger players than they are today at international level.
Roy Hodgson there, and he has. Oh, actually, Paul Kelso asking a question. Let's hear what he's got to say.
I beg your pardon?
Is this what, a family saloon or a sports car you put together?
That's a very good question, I suppose, but I don't know that I'm clever enough to answer in those terms. Unfortunately, I don't know. I think I'll sort of give you a similar answer to the one I've just given. I'll allow you to decide whether it's a sports car or family saloon. All I can say is I'm really very happy to drive it.
That's a very good answer, isn't it? We're chatting to Paul Kelso just before the squad was announced, and Paul was suggesting that Hodgson is normally seen as a family saloon, but he's released his inner Ferrari with this team. What do you think? Kevin Hope has tweeted me this afternoon at Kay Burley saying, let's get behind England. This is a good balance. Away England. The Mad Racing Pundit, good afternoon. The England team might as well get on the plane and get back off again. I'm backing Germany to win. Jayco 1988, England won't even get out of the group alive. Tell me I'm wrong. And Sam Evers-Gale says, looks like a mighty fine squad to me. Let's hope that they can do the job. Last word to Jason Manford. He says, I'd like to announce my retirement from international football after not making the Brazil squad. We're back in a moment.
Going with the question, and I think that obviously that will be an element that people will pick up on, and there will be people who say, well, this is a bit of a surprise that, you know, so many young players got selected, but there'll be just as many people, I think, who will look at it and say, well, we understand why they were selected and that there were merit. So I'll just have to live with whatever people are saying, and in the meantime get on with working with the players.
Okay.
The Sky News Financial Report, brought to you by the Microsoft Cloud.
Moments, it's been revealed that Stuart Hall will not give evidence from the witness box in defence of sex assault allegations against him. Becky Johnson